Hello, welcome again to Real Do It Yourself Build. What I'm going to do today is deal with a little problem that I've got with my heating and my hot water. It's the middle of summer and my hot water's on and my heating's off, but my radiators are getting hot. What I'm going to do is have a little look at the system, and I've got a diverter valve which, when the hot water's on, it'll send the water to the hot water. When the radiators are on, it'll send water to the radiators, and when they're both on, it'll send water to them both. And I think that's the problem. If you come with me, I'll show you exactly what it is and how to deal with it.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside.
Okay, this is what I've got when I go inside the airing cupboard where the tank is. Now, if you have a look here, this is our supply from the boiler downstairs, and we've got an expansion pipe there which goes up, and that will just vent in the attic. And this is a water supply from a tank in the attic, which will provide what we call water makeup. So if ever we lose water, that'll keep topping it up and make sure it stays at the right level. Then we've got our pump just here, and that comes on whenever the heating or the hot water's on, and that pumps the water through, and it goes through this pipe up here, through the pump, and then into the back of this motorised valve. Now that valve either diverts the water into the tank if we've got the hot water on, or it diverts the water down into the central heating, into the radiators, into that circuit. And depending on the signal that it's getting from downstairs, when we turn the water or the heating on, will determine which way that valve turns and sends it. So what I've got to do, the first thing I'm going to do is have a little look at the motor itself. Oops. And if you look underneath, there's a button, and if you press that button, it will release the valve just like this. Press the button, and then the valve will just come off like that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, there's the valve on its own, and there's a spindle on the valve just there which fastens into the back of the into the back of the motor housing, and that's turned when you select either heating or hot water, and it'll send the valve one way or the other, or put it into the middle where it'll feed both. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop downstairs, and I'm going to turn the heating on, and I'm going to look at the top of the valve. Then I'm going to turn the heating off. I'm going to put the hot water on and look at the top of the valve, look at the top of the motor, and see if it moves at all. Okay, so this is the motorised, or the motorised part of the valve, and what you can see on the top here is there's a little black thing sticking out, and that's an indicator of what's been selected, either whether it's this way for hot water, this way for heating, or in the centre for both. And what I've done is I've turned the heating on, and then I've turned it off, and when I did that, the valve moved to here, and then when I turned it off, it moved back to the centre. I then turned on the hot water, and it moved to this side, and I marked it, and then when I turned that off, it moved back to the centre. When I say turned it off, I don't mean just switched it off on the control. I turned all the power off. When you power the motor down, if the motor's working properly, there's a spring return inside, and it will recenter the the valve. Okay, so then I've looked at the valve itself, and what I'm seeing is there's marks on the valve. Just round here, it's as though somebody has tried turning it in the past. The valve does turn slightly, but and it does only turn a tiny amount, and it's only supposed to turn a tiny amount. So I'm looking at it thinking, that the motor seems to work okay, the valve seems to operate okay, so I believe the valve seats are probably what's at fault inside this valve itself. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this valve. Now, as it happens, you can buy this separately from the motor, but in Toolstation for 70 quid, you can get the valve and the motor assembly as one, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to replace the whole thing, just in case the motor isn't perhaps pushing it all the way across, and that might be contributing to the problem. So rather than mess about, because I'm doing it myself, I'm going to change them both at once, and then I can be sure that both the motor and the valve are sound. Okay, this is the one that's fitted, and this is my new replacement that I'm going to be replacing it with. And they're both, the model is MA1. They're both the same. They're identical, more or less identical, and the valve at the back is exactly the same. So it's going to be a simple case of drain down the system and then change the valve, and then do the wiring down the bottom there. Now it's a little bit messy, that, so I'll give that a little bit of a clean as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut all the power off, and all I'll do is take the cable that I've got now and I'll replace it, or I'll plug in exactly where I take it out from, down in the box there, so that there can be no mistake. It'll be very straightforward, but I will turn all the power off first. Next, we're going to turn off the water, which is going to involve a little trip into the attic. Now, the water we're going to turn off is the water on the boiler side, not the water that supplies our taps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lift the stopcock, or the ball valve, sorry, the ball cock in the attic, in the water tank, and prevent it from filling up. So there's our tank under there. It's quite difficult to get to. The roof comes down quite low in that point, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and I'm going to lift up the ball cock, and I'm going to fasten it up with a bungee. Just hold it so that when I drain the tank it won't refill. And if I do it that way, what that means is I won't need to shut off the cold water to the house. So we'll be able to use all the other water, we'll be able to use the taps and such. We just won't have any hot water, and obviously the radiators and the boiler will all be isolated and switched off. Okay, so we can see there's a lot of film on the top of that water. I'm going to have to get all that off before I drain this through. But you can see the bungee there is holding up the ball cock. So when I start to drain, the system won't replenish itself, or it won't refill. It will just drain out without me having to shut all the water off. Okay, so that's the plan. Let's get downstairs and start draining. After we clean that white film off the top of the water, that is. Okay, so we've drained the system down, and then using a wrench I've undone these three nuts, and I've taken off the old valve. Very, very straightforward. Just once the system's drained, or once you've drained down beyond this valve, you can then just unscrew those three, and it comes off straight away, just easy like that. So next I'm going to put the new valve on in its place, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to put it on at a slight angle, just to get the first nut started. And I might have to just put the camera down a second while I do that. So I've got the first one started, and now I can turn the valve and line it up into place with the other connections. It's a two-handed job really. Okay, and then just move the pipes out of the way slightly, feed them in, and then the pipe goes in there, and this one comes across into there. And now we can just nip up these slightly. Now I've put a little bit of PTFE tape around the olives. I don't want to change the olives, and what we'll do is we'll put it in with the tape on, and then we'll give it a little nip up and we'll test it. And you know, I'm fairly confident that we've not damaged them in any way, so we should be okay with those. So I'll just nip this up with the pipe wrench, and once those three are nipped up, I'll turn the water back on, and then we'll have a little look, and then we'll look at putting on the motorised valve. But it's very straightforward. It's just three nuts on the pipe work, one at the back, and one at either end. This is the feed from the pump, as you can see, and then this side goes to your hot water, which goes straight into the tank, and this one goes to the heating system on the other side. Okay, all nipped up. What I'm going to do now is go and turn the water back on in the attic by letting the ball valve down, or the ball cock down, and then the header tank will fill up and it will start to refill the system through the feed. Okay, so the water's back on now, and so far so good. Everything seems fine, nice and dry, although I haven't circulated the water yet, and then I'll have to re-inspect it after I do that, which I will do. Now what I'm going to do next is replace the old motorised valve control with the new one that came with the valve, and the way I'm going to do that is by opening this box. I've already turned off all power to the house. Now the reason I've done that, there is a power switch down in the boiler, or next to the boiler, but I don't know where they've taken the power from to power the equipment that's up here, you know, the thermostat and the pump, etc. So in order to stay safe, be on the safe side, I've cut off all power to the house. Now all I'm going to do is undo this screw here, lift the cover off, and this has got five wires, and they're all color coded, and I'm just going to go into the box, remove one of the old and replace one of the new, and do like for like throughout. So I plumb this one in, or wire this one in, exactly the same way as the other one was wired in, because when we checked the other one, we found I marked where the switch was moving to when I put on the heating, the water, and then both together, and what I found was it was working correctly, it just wasn't going far enough, and that's what made me think that the valve was resisting movement. The mechanical valve there was resisting movement of the motor. So yeah, I'm going to replace the old. I'm going to replace this old one anyway, even though it was operational. It may be that it wasn't going far enough on its own, and you know, so I'll replace that, and that's the way I'm going to do it. So in the first instance, let's just whip this cover off. So that's the cover off. Just put that there out of the way, and when I have a look in, I find, yep, it is a total mess, just as I'd expected. But you can see the cable here. This is the control cable, and there are five coloured lines coming out of there. There's an orange, a green, an orange, a blue, a white, a grey, and a yellow and green. And all I'm going to do now is remove them one at a time. There's the yellow and green, which is the earth. There's the orange. The blue and the grey come down to there and there. So I'm just going to take these out, and I'm going to put the new ones in just by unscrewing the you know, the chocky block there. And I'll do that now, and then I'll show you when I've completed that. Okay, so that's the old one out now. That's the old one out, and I've just replaced it with the new one, and I've just gone wire for wire into the supply there, and then I've put the lid back on, and now it's a simple matter of putting our new motor on, and that just clicks into place just like that. There's a little button on the bottom. If you look at this old one, there's a little button on the bottom that just fastens it on, and we're ready to go now. So what I'm going to do is pop downstairs, turn on the power, and then we will restart the boiler and see if we can get water circulating. I'm just looking at this bit here, this little loop here that comes from the pump around to the valve, and we may find that we get some air trapped in there, so we'll see if we get any airlocks, but we'll have to work out how to relieve those if we do get any. So that seems to be it. We've replaced the valve, and let's just go and check the heat in, and hope you've enjoyed this one and look forward to seeing you next time. Here we are back at the controls. We've got the hot water on, we've got the heating off, and when I test the radiator, it's absolutely perfect. Nice and cold, just what we want in the middle of summer. So, see you all next time.